You're told that you're supposed to keep your loved one with dementia engaged, involved, to let them help in order to encourage their independence, to maintain their abilities, to help them feel useful and that they still have something to contribute. Yet somehow, when you do, everything takes longer, it gets messier, or it falls apart in ways that leaves you feeling frustrated, falling behind, and with more work to do when it's all said and done. You want to do the right thing. You know that engagement is supposed to help, but inside you feel impatient, annoyed, frustrated, maybe even resentful. And then the guilt starts to slip in that you even felt that way. In today's video, we are going to talk about how do you decide when allowing your loved one to help is actually helpful and when it's not, because this is a place that can leave many careblazers feeling judged, confused, quietly overwhelmed. We want to do what's best for our loved ones with dementia, but sometimes that feels like it goes directly against what is best for us. So before we go any further, let me say a couple of things just to make sure we're all on the same page. Feeling frustrated as a careblazer does not mean you are failing. Struggling with this does not mean you are a bad caregiver. And having difficulty with this concept and what you're supposed to do doesn't mean that you misunderstood the advice that you've been hearing. I think the thing that frequently gets missed from a lot of the well-intentioned advice is the invisible load that caregivers carry when they hear this advice. The time pressure, the mental cleanup that's required, the emotional cleanup of managing our own emotions, that takes a lot of energy and over time can absolutely lead to burnout. Never mind the pressure on top of all of that to be patient, kind, and grateful. It sometimes feels with all of these tips and strategies that caregivers are supposed to have an unlimited supply of patience and gratitude and loving kindness. And when we don't, which of course we don't because we're human, it's as if we've failed. None of that is true. So let's get very clear. The general advice that we want to keep the person with dementia engaged and involved, that's not necessarily bad advice, but it is incomplete. We know that when somebody with dementia wants to help, they are often much slower than we are. And that's because processing speed slows down in the brain. It's just going to take them longer to do a task. Also, the brain's ability to hold on to multiple steps at once also starts to deteriorate. So that means that we might be repeating instructions or tasks or prompts or guidance over and over, maybe having to go one step at a time with them. They likely might not even be aware of when they're making mistakes, not because they don't care, but because their brain just isn't able to recognize what they're doing wrong. Needless to say, what looks like helping is often a huge cognitive effort on the person with dementia and a huge emotional effort on our part, allowing them to be a part of this. So sometimes where caregivers get stuck is this feeling that I either let them help fully or I don't let them help at all. But as with many things in life and in caregiving, the best place to be is in the middle. I call it the messy middle. So here's some guidelines to keep in mind when you want to keep your loved one engaged or they want to help out with something that you know is going to take them a long time and probably won't be done the correct way. There are kind of two different buckets of tasks. One bucket is going to be a bucket on tasks that are outcome dependent, meaning you are relying on these tasks to be done correctly. And if they are not done correctly, there are some consequences that will make life difficult for you. Either it's going to really put you behind schedule in a way that has a negative domino effect on the rest of the day. It's going to create a lot of energy for you in terms of cleaning up what they didn't get right or redoing what they did wrong. And then there's another bucket which is basically outcome neutral, meaning it doesn't really matter if they do them correctly or not. There's really no big consequence after the fact. It's not going to take you much time to fix or correct or redo. It doesn't really matter if they don't do it correctly or mess it up. So outcome dependent really needs to get done in a certain way, or it has this negative domino effect on the rest of your day. Outcome neutral doesn't really matter either way. It's not going to have a big impact. Outcome dependent tasks might be something like them helping fill the pill box with their medications. If they're not able to put the pills in the right place and can really double up on doses where they won't, that has a really negative side effect potentially. That's something we have to be very careful that it's done correctly. Also, maybe something like them getting ready before a doctor's appointment where they really want to choose their outfit or put on their shoes and they're very slow and you're about to be late, headed out the door to get to the doctor's appointment, which then maybe you miss your appointment and you have to reschedule. These are things that I would consider that outcome dependent. Outcome neutral might be things like folding towels, wiping down a counter. Who really cares, right? If the towels get jumbled up and mixed up again, it's causing no harm. It can sit in the hamper for longer or sit on the couch waiting to be folded again. There's really not much harm here. If they don't wipe down the counter totally nice or clean anyway, it doesn't matter. You were going to wipe it down anyway. No harm done. When we're trying to keep the person with dementia engaged and involved and they want to be helping, we want to choose tasks where the value of them participating isn't the result. It's not the end game. The value of them folding towels isn't that you have a beautiful pile of folded towels. The value of them wiping down the counter isn't that you have pristine, beautiful counters. The value is that they are being included, that they feel like they are contributing, that they have something to bring to the table besides just constantly receiving care. That's very important. For these kinds of tasks, let them do it wrong. Let them take their time. It doesn't really matter. For the tasks that do rely on an end result and will have significant consequences like deadlines, appointments, days and moments when you simply are at the end of your rope, you don't have the patience on that day, those are days where it's okay not to keep them engaged, not to have them participate in the activity. Simply put, those are tasks that it's okay for you to just do yourself, even if the person with dementia wants to contribute and be involved. In these situations, it's absolutely okay to say, I'm going to take care of this right now. You can help later. It's also absolutely okay to say, actually, I could really use your help with blank. Something that is outcome neutral, that won't have the big negative domino effect if they participate in. In these moments, it is okay for you to just get it done quickly without turning it into a teaching moment where they are involved. It's not being dismissive. It's not being unkind. It's protecting both of you from unnecessary stress. I think one of the things that gets a lot of caregivers stuck is this belief that being consistent means being the same all the time. So if you allow them to help you one day on a task where you have a lot more patience and you're well rested, it feels like you should always allow them to help you with that task if they want. And if you don't, it feels like you did something wrong and then a lot of guilt steps in. But that really ignores the reality of what it feels like to be human and certainly what it feels like to be an exhausted caregiver. Our capacity changes, our energy changes, the context, the situation, all these factors involved, they're always changing, which means we can change our approach. We can change what we want to happen in that situation. Your decisions are allowed to change too. An internal filter that you can keep in mind is asking yourself, is this a task where the outcome really matters? Or is this a task where the process matters more? If the outcome really matters, perhaps that is a task, especially on a day when you're running low on patience or super tired, that is a task you take on yourself without your loved one being involved. If it's more where the process matters and it's just about them being engaged and helpful regardless of how they do it, they can still feel like they are helping and contributing regardless of the outcome. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be correct. The goal is that they are just engaged in it. So the question is, What do you have capacity for today in this moment? Hopefully that question allows you to have flexibility over your decisions without the guilt. It takes into consideration the reality of some days feeling like I can handle this and some days feeling like I cannot handle this or I don't want to handle this. It allows you to respond in the moment intentionally in a way that honors reality, not that honors some rule we heard somewhere. That's what sustainable caregiving looks like, the kind of caregiving that we can do long term. Following rules in books consistently all the time while with disregard for all of the different factors on a day-to-day is unrealistic. This is the real messy middle of caregiving. This is the real grayness in caregiving. It's not all or none, black or white, yes or no, right or wrong. There's a middle ground where most caregiving happens, and it's important to talk about that and how do you develop your own filters and decision-making process to feel good about the decision you're making in that moment. And you're not judging yourself based on something you read in a book or heard on a video that has no idea what you're actually going through personally. Behaviors are going to change. Your energy is going to change. That means we have to make room for our decisions to change alongside with them. If this is something that sounds interesting to you, that you'd like to learn more about, that you'd like to try to learn more about how to operate in that messy middle, in the gray area, how to apply the best practices of dementia caregiving to your real life, I am hosting a live behavior breakthroughs class in March where we're going to be covering the most common causes of dementia-related behaviors, how you can respond to them from a real life perspective. That's what we're going to be doing. You can learn more. There's a description below this video, or you can go to our website, www.careblazers.com. I hope to see you there. Careblazers, you are allowed to choose help that helps. You're allowed to protect your time and energy. It's not giving up. It's caregiving with intention. And our decisions and our actions are going to change as our energy, feelings, moods, circumstances, and our loved ones change with it. All right. I'm sending you so much love. Bye.
Also, Nico gets a belly rub for every person who subscribes from this video. So if you haven't already, click the red subscribe button. It's totally free. And Nico says, thank you very much.